Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It is another beautiful day, and definitely we are coming towards the end of August. Very exciting. But thank you so much for joining us. This is Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, and I am Nipasa Pradhan, going to be your host for an hour or so. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we start off with today's program, I wanted to read out this very important disclaimer. And that is by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. Use of information is at your own risk. So, once again, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you've joined us from. Thank you so much. And let me tell you that this is going to be a very participative and interactive session. So, wherever you're watching, whether on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, please drop your comments and we'll be very happy to take them up today. So, without further ado, please help me welcome today's guest and a very familiar face, a regular face. We have her every Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Nipasa. How are you doing?
I'm also doing great. I'm excited. I mean, August is coming to an end, though, like the year is also coming to an end, but I'm excited for new beginnings, I guess. Whenever it's new, we always have some things in mind to try out new things. So, I'm looking forward for all of that.
That's great.
Yes, and well, friends, like you can see, today's topic is on the screen. Is it easier to get advance parole in 2024? That's a question many people have. And today we're going to dive deep into this topic and also get to know about the I-131 application process. So be with us. And if you are going through phases or maybe facing difficulty around this status, please drop your comments. We'll be very happy to get to know your side of the story as well. So, Prashanti, maybe folks out there who have joined us for the first time, would you like to tell them a little bit about yourself before we can start today's session?
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm an immigration attorney with over 25 years of experience, close to 30 actually. And I specialize in, family as well as employment-based law. My offices
Mhm.
are in New York City, and I wanted to share with you, Nipasa, that I've been voted as the best immigration attorney by Forbes
Yes,
magazine.
I
So
remember.
that was
Congratulations.
exciting. So yeah, looking forward, as you said, to well, actually, I'm enjoying the summer, so and in New York City, it gets quite cold in the winter. But still looking forward to back to school and going back full time to work. We've been kind of taking it easy, and things have been slow. So back to the fast
Yes,
pace again, I guess in September. But yeah, looking forward to it, and a little bit of cold weather as well. I love the fall,
me
so
too.
looking forward to the fall. So
Yes,
let's see what
yes,
the rest of the year has to offer.
absolutely. I'm excited. I mean, right now we're in between summer and fall, so we're just enjoying it. And then when winters come, we are all in the holiday mood. We won't feel like working much, I guess, but everything, well, we all have good things to look forward to, friends. I hope it's the same for you. And without further ado, then let's go head on to our topic today. So, Prashanti, do you have to say what can folks expect from today's episode?
Well, you said that you had a lot of questions on the I-131, that a lot of viewers were asking questions on it. So we decided to do that topic today. It's advance parole. So anybody has questions on advance parole, what is advance parole? We'll discuss, of course, what is advance parole, who gets it, how to get it, what are the common mistakes made, and what you should take care of if you're using your advance parole.
Hmm.
Stuff like that. Advance parole for DACA. A little bit about parole in place, PIP. That's a new thing, and then there's new developments on that also that we can briefly discuss. So that's what we have in our agenda today. And of course, most important, we'll be answering your questions. So please put your questions out there.
Thank you so much for saying that, Prashanti. So, you heard it, friends. We are ready for your questions as well. Keep commenting. So, I have my first question for you, Prashanti, and that is what is the primary purpose of advanced parole and who is eligible to apply it? apply for it in this year, 2024?
So advance parole is like a travel document. If you wish to return to the US after traveling outside, and you generally must have either a valid entry document such as a green card, or you have to have a visa, or you can have a valid and unexpired travel document. So it's a travel document used often in place of a visa. If you don't have a visa in the passport, um, you're allowed to temporarily travel and come back. It's a temporary travel permit. So you generally need to apply for and obtain a travel permit, or an advance parole, as you call it, before you leave the United States. So before traveling, please consider the processing times. If you have an urgent need to travel, you could do an expedited request, or by going to the local USCIS office and informing them what the urgency is. They might issue you an emergency advance parole. Um, a form I-131 is used for advance parole, and advance parole is usually granted to those non-citizens in the US um, seeking to return after temporary travel abroad. And people who usually are given advance parole are um, people who have an adjustment of status filing pending. It could be employment-based or it could be family-based. Um, it can be used, an I-131 also can be used as a refugee travel document. An I-131 can be used as a reentry permit and also as for TPS, for people who have temporary protected status. It can be used as a travel document for them as well. But when it's used as advance parole document, like I said, if it's used in place of a visa, then that is usually used by people who have adjustment of status pending, or DACA recipients use it as well, the dreamers. And as I said, people who have TPS, temporary protected status, use it as well. For Indian nationals, I would say the most uh, often used document, if you have a 485 pending, most of you might know advance parole that way. So that's who generally uses it, Nipasa. Hello? Um,
So my next question to you would be, can you explain the key updates to I-131 form and process for 2024? And how have these changes impacted the processing times for advanced parole applications?
well, the key changes were not so much to the form, but as of April 1, 2024, there is a new form. But there are not many changes in the form, at least nothing that matters. But the big change was that there is a fee now of $630 if you're filing an advance parole. You earlier, before April 1, 2024, if you were filing the advance parole along with your adjustment application, which is along with your 485 application, then there would be no fee. Now, as of April 1, 2024, any applications filed after that, there is a fee of $630.
That's
So
that.
it's no longer free, right? Um, so that's the biggest change, I think, with reference to the I-131 applications. Has there been any change in processing time? I haven't really seen a change in processing time. It's really about the same, 4 to 6 months. Sometimes advance parole cases get processed in 2 months as well. Difficult to say why, but I just give people a long range of 2 to 7 or 8 months because sometimes it takes longer as well.
Okay.
So I would say that if you need to travel, don't wait until the last moment. Please always keep your advance parole updated. So always make sure that you have an unexpired advance parole so that whenever you need to travel, you can use it because you never know when you'll have an emergency.
So true. It's always good to play safe, friends. So remember that. And thank you, Prashanthi, for taking that up. My next question for you is, what are some of the common mistakes, applicants make when filing their I-131, and how can they avoid all these mistakes?
I think the common mistakes made is, of course, mistakes that people made with every type of form: incomplete or incorrect information, failing to fill out sections accurately, omitting omitting the sections completely, not filling it out at all, not providing proper supporting documents. For an advance parole, you need to provide proof of ID, you need to provide proof of your status. If you're a DACA recipient or TPS, you need to show why you need to travel and that it's an emergency. For adjustment of status, you don't really need to show any emergency. You just have to, give them a reason for travel, but you don't really have to provide any supporting documents for that. Of course, you need to provide a copy of your passport. And last but not the least, you have to provide the correct fee and send it to the right address. The fee, as I just said, is now 630. So a lot of people after April 1 were sending out the package, the 485 package, without a fee for the advance parole, and those cases came back and had to be resent again. So
Yes.
that could be one reason. Um, Also, not notifying USCIS of changes in address or circumstances that might have changed with reference to your application. Also, the form keeps changing, so you have to make sure you use the current form and not
The latest.
use an old form. Yeah, so that could be a reason for your case coming back as well.
Mhm.
Excuse me. How to avoid mistakes? Double check your application. Make sure you're sending out the right USCIS fee. Go to the website and check what the fee currently is, because that keeps changing as well. Make sure you have all your documentation in place. Keep your records updated. Don't send like an old driver's license and an expired passport, etc. So these are some of the ways that you can avoid, your application coming back and avoid mistakes in your application.
Thank you so much. And it's always good to stay updated, friends. Look out for, do proper research before you fill out your forms and see that you really can avoid these mistakes because they could fall heavy later, while on the process of recorrecting them. I mean, correcting the mistakes. All right. So my next question to you would be, Prashanthi, for DACA and TPS holders, what specific factors should they consider when applying for advanced parole this year? And are there any special requirements or challenges?
So yes, that's a good question, because for DACA and TPS, rules keep changing. Presently for DACA, so the dreamers, uh, everyone, whoever is a DACA recipient or wants to be, so this is basically for children who came here. I mean, people who came here as children, went to high school here and were out of status for no fault of their own. Um, for those people, they've been given deferred action. They are also called dreamers. So those young people are given deferred action, meaning that no action is taken against them even though they're out of status. And they are
Mhm.
given advance parole and they are given employment authorization. So it's a temporary status. It doesn't really allow you to, it stops you from being removed from the country and gives you some temporary relief. So you also have advance parole when you have DACA. But for those of you who don't know, the DACA applications have now been stopped because of a court ruling. The court has said that if you have already received approval for DACA, then you may continue using advance parole and you may continue using your EAD, but new applications are being accepted, but they're not being processed by USCIS. So please be careful. Don't travel unless your advance parole is actually approved. I would say the same thing for TPS as well. TPS rules keep changing. The countries that are allowed to get temporary protected status keeps changing. During Trump's administration, they had stopped TPS completely. So something to keep in mind, always make sure you know what the rules are before you travel on advance parole. And also, most importantly, for DACA and TPS, you can't just travel because you're going on vacation. You have to have a reason to travel, and only then will the advance parole be granted, otherwise, it will be denied.
Oh,
The advance parole may only be granted for humanitarian purposes, meaning if there's some emergency, if you are going back to complete your education, or if you are working for a US company and you have to go back for employment reasons. So there are some specific reasons that you can apply for advance parole for DACA and TPS. So make sure you know what those reasons are and make sure that you apply. You provide supporting documents to show that you qualify within when your AP application.
all right. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up as well. And at this moment, I'll just take this moment to say hi to all our viewers who've commented and are watching us right now. So, hi to Akbar, Chandrakala, Shaukat, Chivangani, Reena. Thank you for your questions. Please stay with us. Oh, Chandralekha has many questions. I think we should take this one if you don't mind. And also Isha. Hi, Isha. Thank you for joining us. First question Chandrakala has is: will USCIS conduct the third round lottery for H1B?
Good question. And I don't think so, really, because there were very few numbers that were opened up even for the second lottery. So I doubt that there'll be any numbers remaining for a third lottery. That's at least my guess, but no one knows until they actually announce that all the numbers are have been used up.
Right. So we still don't know, but let's not let our hopes down. Who knows? We may. More questions from Chandrakala. Advance parole can be used. Is that a question? Let's see the follow up also. Can be used by day one CPT students. So, can advance parole be used by day one CPT
Uh,
students?
no, advance parole is only for specific people. If you have an adjustment of status pending, um, if you're in refugee status, if you're DACA or TPS, advance parole is for them. Indian nationals often will use advance parole because they have a 485 family-based or employment-based case pending. And it's really nifty because you don't need to go outside the country and get a visa. You can get advance parole while you're in the US. In fact, you have to get advance parole while you're in the US.
Okay. Thank you, Chandrakala. I hope that answers your question. And if you have more questions, we're here for some more time. You can keep asking. And thank you, Prashanthi. Well, we'll get back to all your questions, folks. You keep commenting. But for now, I have some more questions for Prashanthi. So I'll quickly ask, what risk should applicants be aware of when using advanced parole, for international travel especially, and how can they mitigate these risks, especially in the current political climate?
So USCIS also advises caution when using advance parole simply because advance parole is approved doesn't mean that you'll be allowed into the country, or even if you're allowed into the country, it doesn't mean that you will not have any negative consequences to your travel abroad. So you have to speak to an immigration attorney or do your research and make sure that you are okay to leave the country and that does not affect your status in any way.
Mhm.
So travel outside the country may have severe consequences to your immigration related cases. It's not guaranteed, even if you have the appropriate documents, that you will be allowed back into the country. Even with AP, you are subject to, the
Okay.
usual scrutiny at the port of entry to determine whether they should allow you in to the country back or not. And that's the case with every kind of everything, right? Even if you have a visa, you may not be allowed back into the country.
Mhm.
Um, so, especially if you are a non immigrant, for example, and if you travel outside the country and you have a change of status pending, uh, even though you can come back into the country, your change of status application will get denied
Okay.
if you leave. So you'll be allowed back on advance parole, but your change of status application will get delayed. Then you'll have to again, you'll be in the status which you were previously in, and you'll have to file an application again.
Very rich.
If you have a pending, yeah, it's quite risky. If you have a pending adjustment of status application, if you're applying for, you may not be allowed to re-enter in the United States when you return. Even if you're allowed to re-enter, you may be found to have abandoned your pending application for adjustment of status. So
Hmm.
just be careful when you're traveling. Everybody has different circumstances. Um, on that note, if you have a family-based immigration status, meaning you filed an I-130 and 485 based on your spouse or parent, or child for that matter, you actually cannot leave the country until your advance parole is approved. So be careful filing an advance parole and leaving, then it will be abandonment of your advance parole application. They will not
Hmm.
process the application, so you'll have to figure out another way to come back into the country. Once your application is approved, only then you should travel, especially if you have a family-based case. Only travel on your advance with your advance parole. If you have an
Hmm.
employment-based case, it's possible that you can travel with advance parole, or you can travel on your visa as well. And you're allowed to come back on your non-immigrant visa and then continue to process your adjustment application. It's a little tricky, but for family-based cases, definitely if you travel, then it'll be considered that your 485 is abandoned. Employment-based cases, not so. You can travel back on your H-1B for visa, for example. If you
Right.
have unlawful presence, if you have accrued unlawful presence, or you have a removal order against you, if you leave the country, you will not be allowed to come back, even if you have advance parole approved. So people think that if you have advance parole approved, that means 100% you'll be allowed back. They're approving your advance parole, they are not looking at your status. They're not looking at other issues that you might have. They're only looking at the advance parole application. So don't think that that mitigates the other problems that you have. So if you've been unlawfully present in the US for more than 6 months, if you leave, you will not be able to come back under the unlawful presence law for a period of 10 years, maybe, right? Or 1 year to 10 years, depending on, or 5 years, depending on how long you've been unlawfully present in the US. If you have a removal order against you, of course, then again, it triggers again the 10-year bar as well. So you will not be allowed back into the country. So please be careful
Hmm.
when traveling in advance parole. Do not travel while advance parole is still pending. Even on an approved advance parole, please be careful when you're traveling, because there might be other underlying circumstances based on which you will be not allowed to enter, or even if you're allowed to enter, you will there will be some consequences to your pending applications or your pending status or your status on the whole.
Right. Right. So it's pretty risky, and I think it's best to stay in the United States.
I
And
think it's best, Nipasa, to speak to an attorney before you travel on advance parole. I
mm,
think that would be my piece of
that is
advice.
true. Yes, very well said. So it's always best to consult your attorney, and if you don't have one, consult one for sure. And talking about the political climate as well around the world, there are many, I mean, disturbances in many countries. So that also impacts this, right? Do you have to say anything about
Yes,
that?
yes. Political climate in the US is also important. So, as I was saying
Yes.
earlier, under Trump's administration, they completely stopped DACA and TPS as well. So if you travel thinking, tomorrow if you have elections and the government changes and they make some changes to the policies with reference to TPS or even advance parole, and if you have
Mhm.
an old advance parole already approved, which is unexpired, and you think it's fine, you can travel, think again, because you may not be able to come back. So you have to always keep in mind what the laws are at present, what the climate is, political climate is at present, how much scrutiny there is at CBP when you're
Mhm.
at the port of entries, when you're planning to come back. make yourself aware of all those situations, and then travel after that.
All right. Thank you so much. That's a good advice. So friends, take it. And it's an expert saying that. So definitely listen to Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. All right. So I'll also say hi again to friends who have joined us. Mahinder, thank you for joining us. Radhika, please stay with us. I will take up your questions for sure. Also, RK, hi to you. Thank you for your question. And now I have another question. Prashanthi, in the event that an advance parole application is denied or revoked while the applicant is abroad, what steps should they take and how can they handle re-entry into the US? Like you said earlier, they may not be allowed to re-enter. So what can they do if there's such a case like that?
So the first advice is USCIS has changed its policy with reference to advance parole. We were discussing about how policy changes and how we need to keep abreast of what the policies are. Even on the USCIS website, it says that if you have an advance parole application pending, and if you leave, that advance parole application will be treated as abandoned. Previously, it was not so. As long as you completed your fingerprints and biometrics, you could apply for advance parole and then leave the country. And then the
Mhm.
advance parole would still be processed. But that's not the case anymore. So if you leave while it's pending, it will get denied. It's not a matter of if, I think, unless they don't notice that you traveled. So in order to re-enter, then you would have to um, depend on the non-immigrant visa that you might have stamped in your passport. If you don't have one, then you might uh, want to apply for a non-immigrant visa before you come in. And that's the only way to come in. You have to have a visa. Or if you
Mhm.
have a green card pending, you might want to apply for a green card outside the country because you may not be allowed then, and your adjustment of status application will then be denied because you are or treated as abandoned because you are not residing in the US anymore. They will not keep processing your 485. So you'd have an active and approved I-130 or I-140 maybe. So you might be able to apply then for consular processing for a green card through the National Visa Center. And that would be maybe your best bet, or applying for a non-immigrant visa, like such as a H1 could be the another option. Applying for a B2 may not be a good option, especially if you have a 485 pending. But if you've applied based on some other status and you are not based on the pending green card, then you might be able to apply for a visitor's visa as well.
There you go. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up. I'm sure that was very beneficial. Thank you, folks. And also, like, I think I should take up RK's question at this moment. So let's do that. On YouTube, RK is asking, DOS announced that they have issue all have sorry, DOS announced that they have issue all have EB1 green card today, and last week a similar announcement for EB2 3 by 5. Is the a bittersweet in that no wastage, but the backlog is that big given big
I
given
think you should paraphrase
the
it.
current date.
You should
Yes,
paraphrase it
I'm
because
thinking
it is
how.
incorrect.
I'm thinking how.
DOS,
So
basically what the question he's asking is DOS announced that they have issued all the green cards for EB1 through EB5, so basically everything.
right,
And he's saying it's bittersweet because it's good while there's no
no
wastage
wastage.
of the green cards, but there is continues to be backlog for Indian nationals and some other nationalities. So that's what he's saying. But what is the question? No wastage backlog is that
Um,
given the so I guess he's talking about the
I think
backlog.
he's asking about the backlog. Why is
Yeah,
there no
we
changes in the
continue to have
backlog?
a backlog. We know that because the demand is much more than the supply for Indian nationals RK. So we have only 7% of the 140,000 employment-based numbers, and 7% is nothing compared to the population that we have and the number of I-140s that are currently pending and 485s that are pending. So because of that, we have a backlog of several years. They work in 2012, basically. So 12 years backlog, 10 plus years for
That's a lot.
EB2, EB3, EB4. Um, but it's good news, as you mentioned, that they have said that they used up all the green card numbers. Of course, we don't know whether they have or not. Um, it could be they haven't, because there's not much transparency. We have to take their word
Yes.
for it. But hopefully they have. They've used up all the numbers, and which is good, because in the previous years they've not been able to process cases fast enough, and a lot of numbers went got wasted, and there is a request, or one of the advice to USCIS is to increase the numbers by making use of the unused numbers over the previous years, rather than just letting them go to waste. So thank you for your comment, and hopefully something will happen in the following year, if there is the Democratic Party comes in and they have the ability to make laws. If they have majority in the House and in the Senate, then there might be some change. So we have to wait and see if there is. I hope there is.
Yes, me too. Well, RK, I definitely hope we answered your question, though we just assumed that was your question. But I still hope. And if you have your more questions, I mean, keep commenting. But also, I mean, we have the new fiscal year coming up, October, and then also the election in November. So hopefully, there will be a lot more changes, especially regarding the backlog. But yes, it's time for a short break now. And before I go for the break, if you have further questions for Prashanthi, Attorney Prashanthi Reddy, or if you want to contact her for your personal cases, why not give her a call? Give her a call on this number, 212-354-1010. You can even email her about your status or about your case. Prashanthi, please note down the spelling, Prashanthi at readyesq.com, and definitely go visit the website readyesq.com to get to know more about Prashanthi and the law offices of Prashanthi Reddy. Thank you so much, and don't go anywhere because we'll just go for a short break now, but we'll be right back on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show.
IT consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm Nipasa Pradhan, and this is the second half of the webinar we are having right now with none other than our guest for today, Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. Yes, today we are discussing about is it easier to get advance parole in 2024? And definitely diving deep into the I-131 application process. I'm loving answering the questions from the audience, and I hope that they have a lot more questions. I already see so many more, but Prashanthi, I hope you're having a good time as well.
I am, and so let's try and answer as many questions as possible from the audience.
All right. So I think we should take up questions from our audience now. Let's take this first one from Reena. Oh, sorry, Radhika. I am a Venezuelan citizen currently in the United States on a valid F1 student visa, and I've filed an application for a green card through my US citizen spouse. I need to travel to Venezuela for a family emergency, but my advance parole application has been pending for over 6 months. What are my options to expedite the process or ensure that I can re enter the United States without jeopardizing my immigration status?
Good question, Radhika. And you are right to be concerned because you should not travel if you have a adjustment of status family-based application pending without an advance parole approval. If you have an emergency, what you need to do is get an appointment via InfoPass at your local USCIS office and apply for an emergency advance parole. Take the receipt of the advance parole to show that proof that you've paid the fees. They might ask you to pay the fees again. You have to take proof that there is an emergency and inform them. Usually, emergency is in the form of a medical emergency, life and death kind of situation, because they look at this very
Mhm.
seriously. They don't give emergency advance paroles to everyone unless it's a true emergency. So if it is something of that nature where you have to go because someone is in bad health, then that's definitely a good reason to go get a doctor's letter or a letter from the hospital, something like that to show proof that there is a true emergency, and you should be able to get an emergency advance parole which will allow you to travel. That will only be for maybe 30 days. They'll give it for a short period of time. They won't give it for a year. But that should be hopefully sufficient for you to travel and come back before the AP expires.
Thank you so much, Prashanthi. And Radhika, I hope that was very helpful. All the best. Before we move on with all the other questions from the audience, Prashanthi, I had this one question because that's what many people were asking in our WhatsApp, and um, they were mailing me as well. So, if you could just update us, what's happening with parole in place or PIP?
Right, that's a parole in place, and that's a good kind of segue because from that question, it's related to it. So, for people who are US citizens, spouses, but cannot file for their I-130 and 485 because maybe they entered without inspection, they
Mhm,
are forced to leave the country and stay and be separated from their family, from their children, spouses, etc. So the present administration has issued a PIP rule, parole in place rule, where they can receive advance parole while they're still in the US and not
mhm,
be removed from the country. And they can also travel, they can work, etc., while
mhm,
they are in this kind of PIP status. It was issued through an executive order, however, there was a challenge to it in court, and the court has decided, I think in Texas, judge decided that the government was exceeding its power by issuing their power on advance parole by
mhm,
issuing an executive order on this. It should be actually a law, and they're not allowed to give parole in place. So now they just opened it and then it closed. So we don't have any parole in place as of now
mhm.
because the judge has decided, unless there's an appeal, etc., we have to wait and see what happens.
That's a big update because I think folks out there were still thinking this existed, and we had many questions. So, this is kind of a big news, folks. I hope you note it down. All right, I think now we should take up Jessie G's question. We have on YouTube. I submitted my parole in place on Monday, the 26th. I checked my case status and it says case was received, receipt, notice not sent. What does this mean? Thank you.
As I said, parole PIP is most probably won't be issued because of the judge's order. USCIS cannot proceed with their PIP program. So I'm presuming either your case will be on hold uh, or they will send it back saying that it cannot be issued. I think most probably they'll just keep it until there's a final decision on PIP.
All right. So, Jesse, let's hope for the best. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But that's the update. It kind of doesn't exist, I mean, as a law. So, we just have to wait. All right. Let's move on now. Let's take up questions from our folks out there. RK has another question. Why don't they issue a combo card to everyone? Why a selected few?
I have no idea. The
This is.
workings of USCIS are often mysterious, and no one can say why. So, they should issue a combo card in every instance. when you apply for both EAD and Advance Parole. Of course, in instances where you're only applied for one and the not the other, or you don't apply at the same time, it makes sense for them to issue separate documents. But otherwise, if you apply on time, they should, issue for both. I don't know why they're not doing that.
Yes, we all have good ideas, but I do hope that USCIS also gets those ideas and they implement it very soon. RK, well, that's a good idea. Moving on now, let's go on to this next question. Ishwar on YouTube is asking, hello, I'm waiting on my AOS to get approved. I have I-765 and I-130 and I-131 approved. My wife is a green card holder. We would love to go to a 3-day cruise to Bahamas.
So your question
Yeah.
is,
Do you think it would be possible to travel or immigration will make problems?
you should not travel unless your advance parole is approved. They will not make problems. They will just deny your I-130, and not your I-130. They will deny your 485 application, and then you'll have to come back and refile for the 485. I know you're saying that. Are you saying Bahamas? I think, yeah. I suggest you don't, because it's not part of the U.S. So anything that's, any place that's not part of the United States, outside of the United States, you shouldn't travel, even if it's a cruise, right? So wait for advance parole to come and then plan your, I would say, plan your cruise.
Ishwar,
And
for
if you're
now, you
lucky,
might as well choose.
and if you're lucky, maybe you'll get your green card, and then you can travel directly on your green card.
Yeah, absolutely. All the best, Ishwar. But like I was saying, I mean, your 3-day vacation can be somewhere in the United States, if not the Bahamas for now. All right. So moving on, we have this next question. Let's take up Reena. If I-765 is approved, does it also mean I-131 is approved and we would get a combo card? Or is it that the I-131 will have to be approved separately and it will be a separate card?
Uh,
Ah,
no, I-765 approval does not mean that I-131 is approved.
okay.
It will, if you're getting a combo card which clearly states that it covers both, then obviously both are approved. But if you're getting one saying an I-765, doesn't mean that that's the I-131. That's a separate application. So you have to wait for, to get an approval on the I-131 as well.
All right. And there's another question from Reena. I heard if I left the States before I-131 is approved, all my applications that I filed will be abandoned.
Yes, that's what I've been saying when we've been talking now. That's what we've
Yes.
been discussing, Nipasa and I, that if you
Yes.
leave, your I-131 will get approved. If you are a family-based adjustment status, suggestion to status applicant, then your family-based 485 will also will be considered to be abandoned.
I think many people are facing this issue. Everybody's concerned with their travel plans, and can you
Yeah,
just
because it's a
maybe give us
summer,
an yes?
everyone is traveling, there's vacation, so that's why.
Can you just maybe give us an idea of how long can you not leave, or it's just all about approval?
Well, we don't, the approval processing time is could be 2 to 6 months. So we just have to wait until, your case is approved.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, okay. Thank you, Prashanthi. Thank you. Let's take up Isha's questions. There are two questions. Number one is, what are the possible reasons for the significant disparity in USCIS processing times? And is there a way to appeal or expedite my delayed case? And the second question is, can I request an explanation or review of my case from USCIS? And what are my options if I believe my application was unfairly delayed or mishandled?
so
Let's go with the
it's
first
you.
one.
Um, yeah, there could be many reasons for delay. It could be that they are investigating something further. It could be that it fell through a black hole. It could be that um, there is some security clearance that is required, and that is taking time because they have to get it from FBI. They do a name check. Maybe that's stuck. There could be various reasons why your case is delayed, and so you have to wait and see what it is. Hopefully, it's
Mhm.
not that USCIS has lost your file, but and it's so there is no doubt about the fact that there is disparity in processing times, especially for adjustment of status cases. Some cases I see get approved very quickly, and some are taking longer. I think it depends on where the case is sent and who's working on it and what the kind of workforce there is at that particular service center. So these reasons might cause some delay. And if there is an unusual amount of delay, like for example, you have an AOS case and the priority date is current and it has been 2 years since you filed it and still there is no update, then you can file a mandamus case in federal court, asking USCIS, forcing USCIS to respond and give a decision on your case. So there are some options available, and you should talk to an attorney to find out, how whether you qualify for a mandamus case or not.
Absolutely. And Isha, you can always contact Attorney Prashanthi. Her details are scrolling down the screen. And the next question from Isha. Do you have anything to say about it, Prashanthi?
Um, yeah, so she was asking if I can request an explanation or review. What are my options? So as I said, you can file mandamus. You can also complain to the ombudsman's office, and they might follow up with USCIS. You can open a service request with USCIS, asking them to update you on your case. You can
Mhm.
also approach your local congressman and ask them to send out a status request to USCIS, and they will do that as well, as they have a different line connection to USCIS, so they can do that easily as well.
Okay. Thank you, Prashanthi, for taking that up for Isha and for the detailed explanation. I'm sure Isha has no more questions regarding that. Moving on, let's take Mahinder's question. I am the petitioner for my wife. I was wondering if these two forms, I-765 and I-131, are mandatory or required on adjustment of status. She's not going to be working soon because she needs to learn English, and we don't see a useful purpose for I-765. However, we may travel within 5 to 6 months after we start our process, so I-131 would be useful. Does it affect if I don't submit I-765? Are these optional?
Absolutely, it is optional. If you have no need for to work, you have no need for an EAD, then you should not apply for it because now it costs money. Earlier, 765 also was free along with the I-131 if you filed it with the adjustment of status.
Mhm.
But otherwise, um, you if you don't need to now, it's depending on what kind of case that you file, it's from $200 to $600. So you should not file it if you don't need to. You can always file it when you have a need, and there is no issue with not filing it.
Great. Mahinder, I'm sure that clarifies your doubt. Thank you for your question and thank you, Prashanti, for taking it up. Let's go on to Devanshi. I am an Indian national with a pending I-485 application, and I've applied for advance parole to visit my ailing mother in India. However, my H-1B visa stamp has expired, and I'm concerned that if I leave the United States, I won't be able to re enter on my H-1B status. Can I re enter on advance parole? And what documents or evidence should I carry to ensure smooth re entry and avoid any immigration issues?
Um, what did she say about her H-1B status?
that the stamp has
Stamp has
expired.
expired, right? So you can leave the country, and you have two options. First thing is, uh, if you've applied for advance parole and if you filed your 485 based on employment based, and you do not wish to use advance parole because it will get denied if you leave, you can leave
Mhm.
and apply for a H1 visa at the consulate. Of course, you're taking your chances at the consulate. We don't know whether it'll get approved or not, but that is a possibility. And you can, if it gets approved, you can come back on your H1 visa, even though you have AOS pending. But if you're a family-based AOS, then you cannot leave and should not leave unless your advance parole is actually approved. So if you have a family emergency, which looks like you do, as I said earlier, you can apply for emergency advance parole by going to the USCIS website, taking an appointment for InfoPass, and then applying for an in-person emergency advance parole by submitting the proper documentation showing the emergency.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Prashanthi, for taking that up. And Devanshi, I hope you got your answer to your questions. All the best. Now, Prashanthi, I have another question for you. And that is, if someone had a prior order of deportation that was reopened and dismissed, should they still answer yes to the question? Have you ever been in removal proceedings? I mean, if so, how can they best clarify the circumstances surrounding the dismissal?
Uh, so have you ever been in proceedings? It doesn't ask if you've been actually removed or deported. It's asking whether you've ever been in proceedings. So you have to answer yes and then explain, because there is a place to explain. There's addendums that can be added to the form, and you can just write the question number and the page and explain in detail as to what happened with the proceedings and why it was closed.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. And I think we have more questions from the audience, but I have one more question, Prashanthi. And this one is like I received in my WhatsApp. It says, my wife has been in the United States since 2016, arriving at age 14 with her mother. Could this affect her eligibility for any immigration relief, such as asylum? Is there a possibility of consideration given her young age at the time of entry?
Oh, well, this person is then a DACA, ideal for DACA, but unfortunately they're not processing any new DACA cases. So my at this point, unless she entered legally and you're a U.S. citizen and can sponsor her, asylum may not be a possibility because she entered so many years ago. They're going to ask why she didn't apply for asylum within a year of arrival, because that is a requirement for asylum. So I can't think of anything right now to help her unless she has an immediate relative who can sponsor her.
Okay. Okay. It's a very tough situation, but I hope they figure out. All the best. And thank you for your question. Thank you, Prashanthi, for taking this up. Um, there's another question I have. This is I think I received on my mail. As a States citizen married to my husband since 2008, he has no criminal record or deportations, but he faced multiple stops by immigration officers inside Mexico before successfully entering the United States on his fourth attempt. Does he still qualify for immigration relief considering there were no deportations?
Well, if he's married to a US citizen and if he entered into the country legally after being inspected, then he's allowed to file for a green card based on the fact that he's married to a US citizen. I don't know why he was stopped, what the issues were, but that might come up when you're filing for adjustment of status. So need to consult an immigration attorney to figure out what caused the multiple stops. But you're saying there's no criminal record, and hopefully there's no immigration fraud or immigration record against him. So
Hmm.
if there isn't, then there shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. It's always best to consult an expert immigration attorney. So, all the best. And all right. So, we have another question on YouTube. This is from Madhu. My dad filed for my brother, but my dad is now deceased. I understand that there is the option of humanitarian reinstatement. I can stand in as substitute sponsor, but I don't know how to go about it. Do I contact USCIS to let them know that that my dad is deceased, or just wait until they send out correspondent for interview date, etc.?
You should contact USCIS and you should send in. There is a process in place for if the sponsor is deceased, and you have to send the death certificate and you have to send a letter stating what the facts are to USCIS wherever your adjustment status application is pending, and the new affidavit of support as well. So don't wait for USCIS to contact you. I suggest that um, inform USCIS proactively that what has happened and submit documentation um, to fall within the exception of getting a green card even after the death of the sponsor.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you for your question, Madhu, and thank you, Prashanthi, for taking it up. Let's take up this last question we just received just now. This is Zaheen. Thank you for joining us, by the way, and for your question as well. How long it may take for the approval of I-130 F4 sibling petition from Philippines? It's been almost 12 years and just saw also from USCIS website that my application was moved to ELIS, ELIS.
It can take a long time because sibling applications are the most backlogged um, applications in the family-based category, and so you've seen yourself now that it's been uh,
12
the
years.
priority date is over 12 years. And so we wait and see in October what happens. That's when the new visa bulletin for the new fiscal year, when new numbers become available for the next year. Wait and see what your priority date is then you'll have a better idea as to how long it'll take. But it'll take a long
Absolutely.
time.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Prashanthi, and thank you, Zaheen, for your question as well. So I think we are all excited. I know we still have one more month to go for the new fiscal year to come up, but we are all excited for changes. So yes, and Prashanthi, thank you so much for covering this topic today. And maybe to summarize what we discussed about advance parole, if you have any end note for all the folks out there who watched us, would be great.
Well, Advance Parole is a great tool that you can use, great application if you have to leave the country for a short period of time. But keep in mind the uh, other considerations as well when you're traveling on advance parole. You might have, it might cause problems to your immigration status or to your immigration application that is presently pending. So always consult an attorney before you travel on advance parole. If there are no issues, then there's no problem traveling. I'm just saying that you never know. So always make sure that you're aware of who can travel and who cannot. Even if the advance parole is granted, doesn't mean that you won't have any immigration consequences traveling on advance parole.
It's always good to be very, very careful. So consult an attorney before you make any move or before you at least book your tickets. And all the best. Thank you so much, Prashanthi, for doing this today. I had a great time learning from this very informative session as well. And I hope so did the folks. Thank you so much for joining us today as well, Prashanthi.
Thanks for having me, Nipasa. And as usual, we had so many nice questions on topic. Very happy, and hopefully, we gave out a lot of useful information to those people who didn't ask questions also.
Yes, absolutely. We did. Thank you. And you have a great day, Prashanthi. I'm hoping to see you again next week. And until then,
See you next week.
you take care. Yeah, it'll be September by next week. So let's say a goodbye to August nicely in the next few days. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
folks, for joining us today. And it was lovely having all your questions. Thank you so much for being so participative, so sportive, and really nice questions, as Prashanthi has also said. So thank you. You can always contact Attorney Prashanthi Reddy. Her details are on the screen. Her number is 212-354-1010. And her email address is prashanthi@reddyesq.com. Please note down the spelling from the screen. And also, you can visit our website, reddyesq.com, to get to know more about Prashanthi Reddy and the law offices of Prashanthi Reddy. Also, friends, you can also contact us. You can call me on my number. My number is 408-335-6444. This is also my number for my WhatsApp. So you can message me there if you have any questions regarding immigration, because we have our experts who'll be more than happy to answer. So feel free to contact me, and you can also email me. My email address is nipa@higheritpeople.com. And to get to know more about us, visit our website, www.higheritpeople.com. Thank you so much for joining us. You all out there have a wonderful day ahead. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, for more updates and exciting discussions like these. Thank you for joining.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H-1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our